This episode is brought to you by Adorama Pics and McKay Photography Academy. This episode is brought to you by Adorama Pics.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 57.
That's right. Yes, it is. Welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. As Christina said, this is episode 57, and repeating myself, but I'm Toby, photographer and educator.
And I'm Christina. I am a full-time wedding photographer and I am also an educator. You can find us on Instagram by following the usernames below and by visiting our website, photorec.tv.
And that's where you can get all of the links for tonight's show as well. Or if you're watching after the fact, the links that we're talking about are all right there on the show page. So if you want to go, because sometimes we just touch on some of these articles and you want to take a look at them in a little bit more depth, you can do that.
Yeah.
This show is your weekly source of photography news. We mish and mash the news along with some topical discussions. Topical, is that the same as topical creams? We stay away from the topical creams and we only talk about the discussions that are current topics in photography. Sure. And answer your reader questions about photography, photography business, gear, all of that stuff. So thanks for joining us. And a quick note, last week the live broadcast got a little out of sync. Interestingly enough, after the fact, the audio and video were perfectly in sync without us doing anything. It was all on YouTube's end. So if it gets out of sync for you live folks again tonight, apologize. I would suggest try refreshing the page.
Yeah, and we're going to just keep going.
And we have to keep going. That's right.
Yeah.
So, what's up first?
In case you missed it. So, in case you missed it, we had our first Instagram challenge this week. And there is a winner.
There is a winner.
Is that
so
right?
That's right. Don't switch to me just yet. Let's leave them in suspense. The challenge was unique flowers because flowers are beautiful. First
Yes,
off,
they are.
I mean they come in so many different varieties and shapes, and so it's really easy to find a pretty flower and take a picture of it. And some of those pictures are pretty, and there's 162 pretty flower photos that I had to look through to pick a winner of this challenge. I'm really happy with that number. That's great. Thank you for participating, all of you. But a lot of you didn't really work on the unique part. You just found an interesting flower and took a photo. Thank you a little extra to those who went a step further and tried to think of a unique angle or a unique way to showcase a flower. And there wasn't a ton of thought that went into picking the winner other than I like that image, and I think it's unique. So those two things combined helped Angela Redmond's, you can switch to me now, photo. I don't even know what kind of flower it is. Some kind of lily, would you say?
Yeah, I think it's a jasmine. No, not a lily, a jasmine, I think.
Jasmine?
I'm not sure.
Angela, you'll have to let us know. But what I liked is completely fills the frame except for that little hint up above that you can get that there's a petal gap, and just the white, which fits nicely with the Instagram. Now we're looking at it on Icona Square with the black, but on Instagram it just flows in that white, and that center part of the flower is right there. And so just really nice. I love it. And
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Angela. I will be retweeting or regramming. Technically regramming this image, and I also am going to put together a quick little post on photorec.tv with some honorable mentions, because there were certainly some other ones that grabbed my attention and I liked, and as I said, just a lot of beautiful flower photos, just fewer that were unique.
Yeah.
So, do you want the next weekly challenge?
Do I want the next?
Do you want to know the next weekly challenge?
Yes, I do.
I want us, because with the flower photos, I feel like we got one of those things out of the way. Mm-hmm. Now you're out there, you're probably going to hopefully be thinking about ways you can make a flower photo more unique and to stand out a little bit more. Now I want to get a couple of other things out of the way, the cliches.
Okay.
Can you think of any Instagram cliches?
Selfies?
Selfies. That's right. So I want your selfies. Oh, I just said that.
You did say
I
that.
did say that. Yes, I want those cliche type pictures. The other one that comes to mind for me right away, and I still haven't taken a good one. I still want to.
Oh, so
but
the
it's a
challenge is
cliche.
Instagram cliche.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I want you to nail an Instagram cliche. So we get these out of our system. That's what we're doing. We're working our way, getting this stuff out of our system. The other one I think of is nice food. You know, a nice plate of food. It's pretty
or
cliche.
like a boring, just food in general.
Well, food in general, yes. But I hope you are going to take it to the next level. A lone tree on the hill. It's a little bit of a cliche.
I don't know if that's. I mean, it's a Instagram, like in particular, or particular to Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from the chat room some additional Instagram cliches.
Yeah, what do you guys find
and also
to
in the
be
comments down
cliches
below,
with
if you're watching
Instagram?
after the fact, leave your ideas for Instagram cliches so people can come along and read and then try to attempt to make one of those photos. You've got 1 week. I'll be announcing the winner again at this time next week, and you win fame, a little bit of fame, to be honest. You know,
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Let's say it one more time.
So you didn't miss it, but be sure you don't miss it. The T6S review is coming out very, 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 very soon.
Yep.
We're very excited about it.
We're very excited about it. Let's use very some more. Little Mother's Day travel set us behind, but spending time with our mothers was wonderful. And it also allowed me to, spend another 4 or 5 days thinking about this camera, the T6S. And I tell you what, for me, this rear dial, that makes a big difference in my enjoyment of this camera. So its manual friendliness, I use that term a couple times in the review, is high, and I like that. And even if you don't want to shoot in manual mode, one of the priority modes, that dial gives you that easy exposure compensation. So you just remember, okay, if I want to, let's say you're an aperture priority. All right, top dial, adjust my aperture. Ooh, I want to overcompensate, or I want to exposure compensate a little brighter. You spin that rear dial. It's nice. Downside still battery life. I walked around for a day at the museums and it was fine. Did some Wi-Fi. About the middle of the next day, a couple more shots and it died. So, certainly can get through a day.
Yeah. I'm not loving the battery life.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Yep. Dalibor says beach pebbles is another instant. I think if I'm taking
Beach
that
pebbles,
out of
yeah.
context, I might be taking that out
Or
of
just
context.
like beach
shots,
things in general.
beach scenes. How about everybody jumping on a beach? The jumping picture.
Well, I wouldn't say that's like Instagram specific. It's just
Cliche shot. Yeah, you
Just
can go a
in
little
general.
bit beyond just Instagram cliches. One of the things, there's a camera that does jumping pictures now. I think
Is there?
it the ENX 500 or something else? Don't remember. So
I am not sure.
yeah,
Okay. If you are having fun and enjoying watching us, please give us a thumbs up.
feels early.
We're still gonna ask
Oh, that's right.
because it's on the round down.
That's right. Okay.
That's what I'm supposed to do. So, just tooting our own horn here. Give us a thumbs up. It helps tell other people that they should watch us, and that helps us a lot.
That's right.
And without further ado, let's move on to news.
Okay.
What is our first news article?
Well, the first news article I want to bring up, and I mentioned or teased at the beginning, is the sunset on the red planet. It's actually blue.
Wow.
So NASA's Curiosity rover has been traveling along the Mars surface by its lonesome for nearly 1,000 days now.
Wow.
And as it was taking a break inside the Gale crater, it looked up at the sky between dust storms and watched as the sun set on the horizon. Can you switch over to my screen? Amidst a tinge of blue. Thankfully, Curiosity is an astute tourist and took the time to capture the sunset in a series of photos released this week. So the hue can be directly attributed to the aforementioned dust storms. When the blue light scatters off the dust, it stays closer to the direction of the sun than the light of other colors. The rest of the sky is yellow to orange instead. So I just, here, this, look, is pretty amazing. We are looking at a sunset on another planet. And I brought this up for a couple of reasons. One, I'd like to try to make a reference to a space picture each episode, just because I think it's amazing.
To a space picture?
Yeah, a picture from space. We've talked about some other ones. We
Okay.
referenced the Hubble and 25 years of amazing photos,
Yeah.
which part of our Mother's Day travels took us to the Air and Space Annex out there at Dulles
Oh,
in
yeah.
Virginia.
Which was really cool.
Very cool. You get to walk right up to the Discovery Space Shuttle, which did all of the Hubble service missions, and just that was a really cool experience and fun to take pictures of that too. I wanted to take, there weren't too many people. It was kind of quiet while we were there.
Yeah, it was a Monday, so.
Yep, it was a Monday, so it was
That
pretty
helped.
quiet. But I did want to take a longer picture of the shuttle with to blur the people, but I didn't bring my tripod. So I had these chairs lining the little hallway there. So I just drug a chair out into the middle of the hallway, set the camera on it, and I could get I got a 3 or 4 second shutter speed, which is enough to blur lightly. A lot of people stand and read stuff for a while, so 3 to 4 seconds doesn't really
Yeah.
make a big difference. But I like it gave the picture just a little bit more I just want to say dynamicism, but that's not a word.
That's not a word.
No. It made the image a little more dynamic.
It reminds me of a really cool bean picture that actually did we see
Bean,
it?
our furry cat?
No.
Oh.
No. Although those are always cool pictures. But the bean in Chicago.
Oh.
Is that one of the pictures we had on one of our critiques?
Way back when, one of the first critiques we did was of the bean. But that turned out that wasn't a long exposure.
It wasn't.
No, that person just got up early. This was a cool picture. You should watch our critiques.
Really early.
I know. I thought we had.
What are the odds?
I know. There was the bean is that really cool reflective installation in downtown Chicago that is an Instagram cliche somewhat. Some of these locations, and they took a picture. I believe it was early on a Sunday morning. Nobody's around. There's kind of a lower fog in the building. It has a very kind of it's deserted, and it just has this kind of apocalyptic feel to it. Apocalyptic. Mad Max is on my mind.
Even though
Okay,
you don't want to see it
it's too scary.
because it's too scary.
It's too scary.
I want to see it.
I know.
Okay, what's next?
You're supposed to tell us. You're
Oh.
running the board.
Well, you were the one reading the articles. Oh, so kind of exciting. If you own an XT1, a Fuji XT1, you are going to get a significant boost in autofocus performance and functions. Fuji is releasing an upgrade, or I guess just a firmware upgrade. Is that right?
Yeah, just a firmware update. And you can switch over to my screen and I'll show some of the things we're talking about here. So we've got its autofocusing system was good, but certainly all of these mirrorless aren't quite as good as DSLRs, though they're getting very, very close. And improvements like this, especially the XT1's been out for about a year and a half, is that right? Maybe a little bit less than that.
Not sure.
We're up to firmware version 4, and we've got zone and wide tracking modes now that allow users to select a group of AF points in 3x3, 5x3, or 5x5 patterns. One of the things I found when I was shooting with, what mirrorless camera did I take to the Seattle trip? Oh, the Sony A7 Mark II, is sometimes in lower light, using just a single point, as I often like to do, it will struggle a little bit. So being able to, with a camera like the Fuji, switch to a little bit more of a grid view for your focusing system gives the camera just a little bit more data, usually can find a contrast area that can help it focus faster. So this is really nice. And we also have eye detection now. So it did not have this before. It's going to look for eyes and then make sure that those are in focus, trying to be a little bit more helpful. I got a little, I don't say flack, but a little bit of when I did my review, or actually it was my tips on the Sony A7 Mark II, because I said, here's how I use it. A couple people pointed out that they think, and I think they're right, I'm stuck in this paradigm of using a DSLR and its autofocus system, and it doesn't have IAF, and the Sony does. I didn't use it much when I did. I found it to be worthwhile, but I feel like I should have really used it more and relied on it more in some situations. I think this is especially in relation to back button focus, because you don't have to use back button focus always. This IAF system will grab nicely on and then You don't have to worry about it getting confused and focusing on something else as much. So, these features are really nice, and the fact that Fuji is still updating and making significant updates. These aren't like bug fixes or language or to fix a phenomenon, as Canon often releases updates. And I mean, I can really only think of two exciting Canon firmware updates in the last couple of years. One for the 5D Mark III that did the clean HDMI out, and one for the very old 7D, gave it a faster burst rate and did a couple other things that really helped that camera along. But otherwise, they're very stingy with taking a camera and adding any significant new features to it. And I feel like all of these mirrorless cameras are, not all of them, but most, Fuji, Samsung, they have released significant firmware updates that have made nice changes. And if you've bought one of these cameras and you get this free firmware update, it's really nice. We should check back in with Nathan, who I interviewed in a follow-up to my Fuji interview, and see what he has to say about these. He loves his Fuji, and I have to say, these recent updates and a little bit of a price drop with this camera, it's a very nice camera.
Yeah, and I just want to jump back actually to a couple of different things that we skipped. So B&H is now shipping for free to Canada, and I should put this away because now you are really distracted with the chat.
Well, I was just making sure. Somebody said we're a little out of focus. That's right. B&H is now shipping free to Canada on orders above $99. Nice. They sent me that information today. Most things you're going to order from B&H, you're probably going to hit that limit very quickly or rise above that number. And just a reminder that easy way to thank me and us for doing this work is to use our links for shopping at places like B&H. So, hey, how about that? Oh, I was going to do a Canadian accent. Hey, how about that? You Canadians can now shop B&H. I don't know. Do you have to pay an import fee, though? Is there an extra import fee? I don't know. I'll let you Canadians decide.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the other bit of news you skipped, Christina?
Oh, there's a new 51.8 STM lens from Canon, which is really exciting.
Why is it really exciting? I'm sorry.
Because it's an update to the very old 51.8 that I used to own that lens, and now we're getting a nice new upgrade.
That's right. Metal mount.
It's quiet.
It's going to be silent focusing and smooth for video. Now, I'm curious to see if it is truly silent. None of the STM primes so far have been truly silent. They all have a little bit of whine to them because they're just so small.
But they're the silentest.
They are the quietest, if we're trying not to make up too many words on the show tonight. But I think the quality is going to be excellent. And the price, they're keeping it at basically the price of the 51.8, $125. I've pre-ordered mine already. They should be shipping May 21st is the word. And
we will have a review.
It's full frame compatible. It's an EF mount, so it'll work on your EFS or your EF cameras for Canon. 7-bladed aperture. So remember, the original, not the original, but the Nifty 50 or the Plastic Fantastic has just 5 blades, and it gives you your little bokeh blurs a little pentagon appearance, which I kind of think is endearing, but a lot of people kind of poo-poo and look down on. They can tell when you use that lens often.
Wow.
Whereas 7 rounded blades...
Are real pixel peepers.
Well, you don't even have to be a real pixel peeper to see them, but again, I think it's kind of cute. Cute little bokeh. Is that the show title? Cute little bokeh?
No.
But with 7 rounded blades, we should have a much more circular bokeh. So if you like that kind of bokeh, this will be nice. I think it's going to be sharp. It's definitely going to be noticeably sharper than the 51.8. I think it brings into question the 51.4. We go back and forth on that. It is not the sharpest lens, Canon's 51.4. It's a decent value because it is just 300 and it gives you f1.4. I think it's going to be harder to recommend that over the 51.8 STM if it's as sharp as the
51.4 is
chart
kind
show.
of garbage.
Oh, you're too harsh.
Okay, fine. It's not garbage, but it's not a great
I mean,
lens.
we've shot with it for years
Yeah, I
prior to
know.
upgrading to you in the case of going to Canon's 51.2 and me
Yeah.
going to, well, actually, no, I just continued to shoot with it for a while. I know a lot of people that film with it. I'll tell you one advantage it does have for filmmakers is you've got a nice big USM ring there to grab for focusing, or you got a nice big focus ring to grab, and it's USM. Although it's not, it's one of those lenses that falls into this category of not quite USM. They call it USM, but it's not as the same level as the L class USM. Um,
People hear Bean in the chat, or at least Dalibor hears Bean.
Dalibor's got good ears.
He does.
Well, you know what? I can get up because I'm not wired, and I'll let the cat in.
That's right.
Because why not?
We are wireless today. Hi, Bean. He just came in. He's like, why? Why have you kept me out of here for so long?
Yes, let's give everybody the blow by blow as the cat comes
Okay.
on. Oh, while I'm up, I'm going to get this print over here.
So, yes, we will have a review as soon as we get the 51.8. We're very excited about it, and we hope you are too. Canon has acknowledged the issue with the Canon T6i, T6s with the little specks inside the sensor layers. They have acknowledged that it is an issue, and they have told customers who have received cameras that have that issue to just send it in, and they will fix it for them. So have no fear. If your camera has that issue, it will be fixed. Does anybody in the chat or anybody who is watching this leave in the comments or on the chat if you've had that issue? I haven't heard from anybody besides Roger at Lens Rentals who has found out about or who has had that issue. So
Right.
it must have been very rare.
Well, it can't be that rare if Canon is going ahead and making a public announcement about it.
I guess so.
They must recognize that there was a batch of affected cameras. Camera manufacturers always really, not always, they usually drag their feet in trying to, because they don't want to hurt their sales. Let people keep buying it. Oh, and if yours broken, sure, we'll take care of it. But it's nice to see them step up and say, we've got an issue, we'll fix it for you. Certainly a bummer if you buy and you end up and you have the very first thing you have to do is send it into Canon for fixing. But the turnaround time for these kind of fixes is usually very quick and less than a week. And then you have your camera and you're good to go.
Yes. Yep. And another article that we have lined up is, I didn't read this one, so you're going to have to tell me about it. The title is Camera Head-to-Head N95 versus 930, the difference 8 years makes. And what I'm assuming is that it's the difference between a point-and-shoot camera and a cell phone camera?
That is, those are both cell phone cameras.
Oh, they are?
They are, even
so
though
that's
it's
a
fun.
phone?
That's a phone. Right. So I thought this was cool because last week we had that question of what have been the big changes in quality in progress in these sensors and cameras. And I thought this was kind of a nice summary of taking what were a flagship phone at the time. I remember when this Nokia came out, it was not even in the realm of something that I could pick up. I think it wasn't even carried by my carrier at the time. But this was a 5 megapixel cell phone camera. It's like, what? The other ones on the market at the time were 1 megapixel or even not even 1 megapixel. So over 8 years, what have been the improvements from this flagship 5 megapixel to what is it now in the Lumia 930? I should have read. It's a lot more megapixels. Or is it the same 5 megapixels? Well, I'm not sure if the megapixel difference is important. But here we got sensor sensitivity, including backside illumination. That's one of the things that Samsung put in their NX1 that makes a huge difference in its low light capabilities. And we're seeing that in these smaller cell phone sensors as well. Better optics, more elements, larger glass. Optical image stabilization is huge, not only for stills, but also for shooting video, and the fact that we can shoot video too. Oversampling, or the use of higher native resolution on the sensor to combine outputs into lower noise output pixels. I think that's interesting. far faster image processing, faster camera startup time, faster focusing, faster captures, faster displays. I mean, the displays are gorgeous. And again, this two things we can get out of this. One, it's interesting to see the changes over the last 8 years. And two, it is interesting to read this list and see, this is another reason or several reasons why smartphone, sorry, not smartphone, point and shoot
Are dead.
are dead. Yep.
Are dead.
And better imaging processing algorithms, making higher quality JPEGs from the raw data coming from the sensor. And I'd add a point, if we move beyond these, that the latest Android phones that allow you to shoot raw and give you just a little bit more information in a DNG file that you can then edit. You know, again, when we were walking around the museums this weekend, or Monday, I was keeping track of cameras I was seeing.
Oh, were you?
I was trying to. And this is not a scientific poll, but Canon DSLRs, all right, let's put cell phones aside for a second. Camera-wise, I saw more Canon DSLRs than anything else.
Huh.
Just after that, a few Nikon DSLRs, and then a couple of mirrorless. I think an NX 300 or 500, and then maybe a Nikon J. I couldn't quite tell, but it was a very small or mirrorless camera that I didn't immediately recognize, so I think it's in that Nikon series.
Huh.
And then a lot of smartphones.
Yeah.
A lot of smartphones, and a couple of old people with point and shoots.
So by show of comments in the chat and then also comments down below, what do you use? For those of you who are watching, do you use Canon? Do you use Nikon? Do you use Panasonic? Do you use Fuji? Tell us. We want to know. Because we think that the vast majority, well, not the vast majority, but I think Canon's still more or less leading. Not because they're the best, or because they're making any strides in image quality or, sensor performance or whatever, but because, well, they're lenses, and they just have had...
Or they have had the lead.
Right, but they are now kind of falling behind. When it comes to still cameras, I mean, I think that they have made some really huge changes and introduced some really exciting video cameras that are catered towards professional filmmakers.
You talking about the C300, 500 series?
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, those they're getting their pants beat by. They are.
I mean, it's no
You
Red
compare them
Epic.
against the Black Magic, the GH4, and the Sony NX1.
Yeah, but they offer full frame options, which Lumix does not, or Panasonic doesn't do. And does Blackmagic even have a full frame
Yes.
sensor?
They got Super 35.
Oh, okay.
They got that. Yeah. And they have. Well, the NX1 is crop, but yes, you're right, full frame. But again, I think we need to move beyond the full frame crop in this discussion and talk about whether or not it gives you the performance you need. And for a lot of people, NX1, the GH4, the Sony A7S, which is full frame, give you that performance. I mean, again, I'm not saying Canon's horrible, but here's what I've been thinking about as I'm reviewing this T6S and the T6i. The reason we shoot Canon is when we, I think I can speak for you as well, although we both bought into it kind of separately. When we were buying the cameras, looked around and said, well, what's the best affordable DSLR at this point? It was clearly Canon. Nikon had this was back, back before the D5000. The Rebel XT was the first I bought into. And it was superior in several ways over the Nikon side of things. And now we have, and so I feel like Canon hooked me. And then I was investing in glass because that was smart. And then, I didn't upgrade to the thing that came out after the XT, or actually it was quite a while before I upgraded my XT. I had that for 5 years. It was plenty of camera for me. I got into the system, and you're not listening.
I'm actually tallying up, or trying to tally up all of the chat responses. Okay. So we've got a huge Canon majority with, I think, Sony.
We have a biased audience, though, not in a bad way, but because many of these people found me through my reviews, and I am personally Canon heavy, because it's what I know, and I'd say it's been more balanced more recently, but these people these wonderful fans who are following right now have been around for a little bit longer typically. And so I don't think we're a good sample size, but I do think Canon, well, yeah, there's other market research. But I want to come back to this and say, I got hooked into Canon, you got hooked into Canon, bought the gear, and then you upgrade the bodies later on. And now, Canon, I don't see you hooking people with this. It's a nice upgrade if you're already in the Canon system. It's still, even if you're not in the Canon, you're looking for your first DSLR, it still represents a good camera, but it is definitely not the clear winner. And I think it's a smaller group of people that this appeals to, and there are a lot of choices. So I really feel like Canon is getting hit from both ends, and I don't know if they realize it, or that mindset of we are the top, we've got the lenses, but you've got the high-end stuff coming on, you've got all of these mirrorless, you've got a ton of really nice mirrorless at the low end, and Canon, you're getting squeezed like the last of a ketchup packet. And you better watch out.
Okay, well that's enough of that, I think.
Okay.
Are we still on news? I think that was it for news, correct?
Yes, I think that might have been it for news.
Great. So we want to take just a couple minutes to talk about some of our sponsors for today. Did you bring the picture that you were...
I put the picture
going to
within reach. So
Okay.
we've been talking about Adorama Pics. They've been a wonderful sponsor now for several shows, and we thank them for their support. I hope you all took advantage of the book coupon code to get a nice book. We talked about the book, how much fun it is. Tonight we just want to talk about regular prints. I got a bigger one just because I was curious. I wanted to compare this to the metallic print I got of the same image.
So this is actually a metallic,
A metallic
and that was a
print.
metal print.
That was a metal print. Oh, thank you for that distinction. Yes. And I was just curious. This is beautiful, but shoo, man, that metal print takes it to a whole nother level. So that was interesting to see. But our point tonight is, again, in this digital world, we're flinging pictures all over the place. And it is just so easy to go make a few prints from Adorama Pics, just a couple 4x6s, 5x7s, pin them at your desk at work, on the fridge, and it's just so nice to have a tangible piece of family, history, a moment in time, and I think that's it. I mean, it's just special.
Yeah.
We talked a few weeks ago about, sitting around the table with your parents and looking at embarrassing pictures of you when you were little and all kinds of...
I don't know that they were embarrassing.
Most of them were pretty embarrassing.
Not most of them.
Okay, no. They were actually pretty adorable. Many of them were adorable.
It was pretty adorable.
You were. Except for that one outfit. I don't know. I can't make fun of you.
You can
You're
blame
like
that
8.
on my mother.
Yes. And we got to sit there at the table and going through the shoebox of 4x6 prints, and it was a lot of fun. And we don't have that for your younger brothers, and I've heard from a lot of people out there. And so, take the time and make a few prints, and then we put you on the spot. What are some fun ways, without framing, to share prints?
So one thing that I have found really cool to do is just to get small-ish prints. And so you can, like, we have a Fuji, one of those Fujifilm automatic camera, not automatic, the instant cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hardly ever use it, but every so often I'll take some pictures. And and then I collect pictures that I've taken on vacation, that I've taken to get printed, just really small size. And I have a cute little copper tray that I keep on our coffee table. And so I just kind of throw all those pictures together, and when guests come over, they pick up the little tray, and they have all these, pictures that they can look at, which is really fun. Another thing that I've been doing is printing pictures and putting them in a wooden box. There's an Etsy shop that I found that does really beautiful wooden boxes, and I just fill them with 4x6 prints. So it's kind of...
And give them as little gifts.
Yeah, or just keep them for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of I think a prettier alternative to the, like the shoebox type deal.
Yeah, the shoebox is not so pretty.
And it also, one important thing about printing pictures is that you're curating your images.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to print all of them. You're going to pick the best ones and you're going to print those. Whereas digital images, you're just going to probably keep all of them. So, so you have the best ones and you have them printed, and it is just such a difference to be able to touch them and look at them, and they never change. They're always going to look the same. So I am a huge advocate. I always tell my clients to print their pictures. Even if they don't print them through me, I still send them to Adorama Pics.
Yep.
And I really do. I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor. Before we even started doing the live show,
Well, that's what we said. We've been really lucky to have sponsors we
said-
would recommend even if they didn't pay us.
I've been sending
And
people to
Adorama
Adorama
Pics is
Pics.
fantastic. Bean, you got stuff stuck to you. I'm sorry.
I know,
Okay.
everybody's saying that he's got stuff on his butt.
They've been outside. Okay. Thank you, Adorama Pics, for your support. Now, do you want to move into our discussion piece? Last week, we were running out of time because I blabbed too much and cut you off from, I wanted to bring in a little raw doctor. Part of the travel set us back a little bit, and we didn't get any videos out since last week. I don't like to do that, but it happens sometimes. And one of the videos that should have gone out was a little raw doctor. Can you tell us what a raw doctor is, or do you want me to while you get ready?
Why don't you tell us?
Why don't I hand you over the Lightroom, because you're working on it right here, right?
Yeah.
Raw Doctor is a newer show that we are doing where we ask people to send us your raw files, CR2s, DNGs, NEFs, and allow somebody who is an expert in post-processing, like Christina here, to edit them. And so through this video, you get to see, both a little bit of a critique of your image and what somebody with editing skills would do to make it a stronger image. These days, there are really two main pieces to photography these days. And you can grumble about this, and you can try to be a purist if you want, and that's fine, and say, my pictures are going to look perfect straight out of camera. But the reality is, almost all of the good pictures you see online have had serious post-processing to really make them shine, to make them look their best.
You're blabbing too much again.
Okay, so with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Christina for a few minutes, and then I'll just bug her every once in a while and ask questions.
Okay. And we will be kind of watching the chat too to see if you guys have some comments. And so we're going to start with this picture. I am going to go back to the library module just to see if we have, this is from Louise.
Okay.
And I like this picture a lot. I really love the pose. The pose is excellent. The expression is excellent. And I love the natural sort of feel of it. And I like this ray of light, which is intersecting with just with her face. And it's also sort of illuminating part of her face. I like this a lot because it really brings the attention, it brings my eye right back to her face, and then it comes back and then right back to her face. So I really like that, and there's all this additional really interesting graffiti and texture, and so awesome picture. I would, however, tweak it a little bit just to make it look a little bit more perfect. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close all of these things that I have open so that I can just have open our tweak kit and our presets. So these presets are available with the purchase of some of our Lightroom tutorial videos online at photorec.tv/shop and with the whole package. So if you go to photorec.tv/shop, you will be able to see. You read the description if you're interested in the presets, so that you know which videos include that.
And using presets is really about working smarter. So you develop these steps that just happen automatically, and you can even do it when you import a picture.
So I'm going to start with my base preset, and what the base preset does is it adds clarity, adds vibrance, corrects for lens distortion, so it applies automatic lens distortion corrections, And it adds sharpening, if I didn't say that already.
Mm-hmm.
So clarity and sharpening are different. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to straighten this picture. So I am seeing all of these lines here, and they're all kind of crooked. So I'm going to take my crop tool, and I'm just going to drag until these lines are more or less straight.
And I'll say some of that base preset, that's similar to what the camera's going to do if you were shooting a JPEG.
Yeah.
But RAWs don't get touched. They don't get massaged by the camera. They're left untouched.
Another thing the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going, because I didn't get as straight of a background as I was hoping, I'm going to go to my lens corrections panel, go to manual, and just slightly, just try to fine tune this. So I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to minimize the barrel distortion. Okay. And that looks a little bit better. It's not totally perfect. Maybe correct the vertical so that, yeah, there we go. That's a little bit better. Great. So now the crookedness of some of these lines isn't as distracting to me. The next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to lift the shadows up just so that I can see more of this woman's face. And I'm going to go to my tone curve panel, and I'm going to do my favorite little trick here is I'm going to clip the blacks. So I'm going to set my black point so that all of the shadows, the deepest shadows in the picture, are pure black. And I'm going to set my white point so that the white areas of the photo, the whitest areas of the photo, are pure white. And this is going to ensure that I have even contrast throughout the whole image. You can also set your white point by dialing down the blacks and the whites, but I've found that it's not as precise. So I like to do it in the tone curve. And if you open the tone curve panel, you might have this instead of what I just show you. This is going to be your default. So you just click on this little button right here, and that's going to get you to your custom tone curve. Where you'll be able to click that. Okay, the next thing I'm noticing is that her shirt is very blue, so I'm going to tone the add warmth and warm this picture up. And it's looking a little bit yellow in her face, so I'm thinking her shirt's probably just a little bit blue. I'm going to increase the exposure just to balance it out, and I'm going to decrease my highlights so that this spot on her face isn't so bright. And just add a little bit of green to correct the pink in her skin. And I think that I'm pretty happy with that. Let's take a look at what it looked like before and the after. So there's more detail in her face. It's a little bit yellow, but that's also coming from the drastic change in temperature from the original to the final product. I might add just a touch of contrast and bump up the clarity. And that's it.
John Inglis, send me an email and I'll get you your PhotoBrec presets back. Somebody mentioned that they'd move the model to the right, just Roger saying they'd move the model to the right a little bit. I think I'd agree with that. Just
I don't know.
a little bit.
The reason that I wouldn't do that is because to me, this line feels like the photo makes the photo feel very symmetrical instead of off balance. This little beam of light really balances out the left side and the right side of the image. I'm sure you could do that. I wouldn't do it. If I were to crop and move the model to the right, you would lose this area right here. You would crop part of this doorway, and it wouldn't look very intentional. It would look sort of sloppy. So I love the balance of this, and it's only because of that beam. Okay.
Next image.
Next image.
And last image. This is a mini Raw Doctor.
It is a mini Raw Doctor, but it's taking a little bit longer than I had originally expected.
We will be back next week with a full on Raw Doctor. And why Christina's bringing this up?
It's already up.
Oh, it's up. Okay. I was just going to remind people that they should be working on a critique assignment as well, and that is cropping.
Yeah.
Not cropping in Lightroom. but cropping when you shoot the image. So go watch our last image critique on repetition to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Christina, back to you.
Okay, so we are on this image, and I'm going to go to the library module just to see if we have a name. Who created this picture? It does not say, so Anonymous created it. I love the light in this picture. There's like a little bit of morning mist sort of still in the air, and the sun's like filtering through the trees. I will say that I don't love this tree right here. This main tree feels a little bit like it's breaking up the balance in the picture. However, the light for me is just really nice. So I'm going to work with this. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually, let's just reset that and close. I'm going to apply the base preset again, which again adds clarity, sharpness, vibrance, and it corrects for distortion. Now I'm going to straighten my horizon and crop this image slightly. I'm going to crop it, let's see, I think I want to crop it on the right a little bit. I don't want to lose this part of the picture because it's very pretty. So I'm going to crop it right about there. Sure. And that looks pretty good. I love the detail in this photo. It's really great. The next thing I'm noticing is that the picture is very blue. So I'm going to warm it up a good bit. And I'm seeing the wood turn from blue to a little bit of a purplish color, so I'm going to add some green tint to balance that out and to really bring out the saturation in the greens, or to really balance out the greens. And great, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit and add a good bit of contrast, maybe just a little bit more clarity to bring out more of the detail, and just a touch more temperature now that I've brightened it up, and a little bit of saturation. No, that's too much. I'm actually going to go with vibrance. I see that my black point wasn't set, so again I'm going to go to my tone curve and I'm going to set my black point just slightly, and maybe just bring the shadows back. And if I'm also paying attention as I edit, I'm looking at my histogram, and I am making sure that I am not clipping too much on the right, too much on the left, so that, you know, all of these tones, that there's not too many of them that are hitting the left or the right, and that all of my pixels and all of my tones, the tones in my image, are spread evenly, more or less, over the histogram, the entire histogram. Yeah, and that is pretty much all I would do to this picture. I think it's just beautiful as is.
Great.
Awesome.
I'll switch back to me, and I have good news. Why you are place picture things here. I got an email from Libby at Adorama Picks. She was able to get us a coupon code.
Oh, awesome.
20% off all small prints. Now, they consider small prints to be anything under 16 by 20. So, anything under 16 by 20, you can save 20% off through the end of this month using coupon code PXRBT20. We'll put that information and a link to Adorama Picks right down below. So,
XRBT20.
an easy way to thank them for supporting the show is to go make some prints and save yourself 20%.
Yep.
Thank you. Also, this is just fun. We're moving into the fun section now, aren't we?
Are we?
Are we?
Because we have to go through questions.
We do have to go through questions, but before we get to questions, I posted on Instagram earlier today a screen grab off of my a recent review. As truthfully, I'll tell you all, it was the T6S review, and there was this well, it wasn't flowing exactly as I had hoped, and we were on like take 16 or something for this one segment of it, and it doesn't seem to be loading. But I asked people to give me captions for the screen grab. First off, can I just say again, the screen grabs from the GH4 4K video file are just jaw-droppingly gorgeous so often. We had that photo shoot this weekend, last Friday with the baby.
Yeah.
And we took some screen grabs from the 4K video I was shooting. And it's gorgeous. We should make a print from one of those.
We should
make a print.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Can you switch over to me for a second so
No,
I
I'll
can?
send it
Can I
to
show this picture bigger?
The mama.
It's so little.
I'm going back to the computer.
Yeah, you're going back to the computer for a second so I can show this picture was a screen grab I shared, and I said it needs a comment. I'll read out some of the comments, and so I'm going to just read them from my phone so I don't have to mess with this thing. Limes Are Sweet Too says, if I get asked one more time, Canon or Nikon, I'm going to scream. I'll tell you truthfully, I don't get asked that nearly as much as specifically D5300 or T5i. Trek Geek said, the sound is out of sync again. Yes, as I've said, this podcast has given me night sweats. There's one, oh.
Night sweats.
Night sweats.
That is a reference from Silicon Valley, if you guys don't know.
I like that, yep.
The latest episode.
This person said, this is how you make crab shadows with your fingers. That guy Jay says, the Canon 5D Mark IV isn't coming out until when? You know, I don't, well, it's not going to have 4K. I'm just going to say that. That's the other thing. We're going to have a space picture each episode, and I'm going to say that the Canon 5D Mark IV won't have 4K each episode. Joe Mechanic CC says, wow, can't believe I just formatted the memory card before saving the picture. This page is very unresponsive.
Yeah, that would probably make you do that.
Samanita said, that breakfast burrito.
Oh, God.
And then Capricornix said, and I don't know if they had already started watching and we talked about cliches, to selfie or not to selfie. And Tanner said, my cinnamon bun, having fallen to the floor, no longer consumed. Oh, you think that would stop me, Tanner? Actually, it would.
It wouldn't. No,
it would. With these
would
cats
not.
in here, everything, the instant it touches the floor, there is no 5-second rule in here. There is a 1 second, it becomes the furriest little creature on earth.
Ew. You didn't need to know that. That is not true, by the way.
It doesn't matter how often we vacuum.
And you would
if
still
food
eat
hits
it,
the floor,
even if
it gets hairs on.
Okay, off topic.
Yes, okay. So, coupon code, fun stuff on Instagram. Follow along. We also have that weekly challenge. And now we want to talk about some reader questions.
Yes, so I have picked some of them already, and they're on the rundown. So if you want to go look at those and start answering them. And everybody, now is the time to ask us your camera-related questions, your photo-related questions. So leave them in the chat. Roy is not here today. We miss him very much. So I will be looking through the chat and picking out some questions that we feel should be answered. So post them in the chat right now. And you should not be Googling that.
Well, okay, so I don't like these questions you picked. Oh, the first one we already kind of talked about. Oh, no, actually the first one I missed. Will you be reviewing? Yep. The 50 f1.8 STM, absolutely. I pre-ordered it, and I hope to have it here as soon as it ships. Will it act as a decent macro on a crop sensor? I don't believe so. I believe its close focusing distance, if I read correctly, is the same as the current 50, and it's just not a macro. Not even close. In fact, they don't even print macro on this, whereas on something like the 40, they will. However, the kit lens... except for the fact that you have to shoot at f5.6 when you're out there at 55, will get you very close. I have a picture from a couple weeks ago of fiddleheads from this exact setup right here. It's very close. The detail is great, and it is just tiny, just a little bit cropped. Not really worth talking about. The other interesting thing is when we were looking at the 70D and the T6S pictures, 20 megapixels versus 24, it is such a minute difference.
They look almost identical.
It's just
really hard to
a
say.
sliver on the top and the bottom and the left and the right of extra stuff. KDO888 is asking about the Daisy, the throw and shoot camera. That's what I was Googling. I haven't heard about it at all. But when I Googled, what came up was introducing the Lily camera. Maybe they got confused because that's another flower female name. Lily, the world's first throw and shoot camera. It lets anyone, and then the Google preview ends. It lets anyone create cinematic footage previously reserved for professional filmmakers. Lily is waterproof, ultra-portable, and shoots stunning HD pictures and videos. Pre-order now. And this was just released today, and it must have got a lot of traction because it.
Oh, wow.
Can you switch to my screen for a second?
Sure.
Because that video already has a lot of views. Oh, I guess released yesterday. So this is interesting. Let's watch the video for a second here and see. I think we're going to see more and more of these. I'm going to call this a smarter drone. And this computer is just froze up, so we're not going to see anything. We can switch back to me if we want. That's what it looks like. I think the idea is you can basically throw it up in the air and it does a lot of the work for you. This is similar to that camera we talked about 2 or 3 episodes ago that looks a lot like the DJI drone, but it has a lot more smarts to it, and you can set up these shots in these kind of cinematic moments where it'll fly and pan as it flies without you having to think about doing all that. And you can also have it track you, track an object. So we're going to see more and more of that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't have any idea how many megapixels you can fit on the head of a pin. Well, actually, the answer is it depends on what design, because we have these different pixel densities. So that's all I'm going to say. Depends. Auntie Van wants to know A7 Mark II or Canon 6D. This, I think, is an easy answer. Do you need blistering fast autofocus and lots of frames per second? Oh no, sorry, I was thinking 7D Mark II. A7, so the Sony or the Canon. I would go with, if you don't already have Canon lenses, that Sony A7 Mark II. We really enjoyed carrying that camera around.
For video?
No.
Okay.
Just that's what we took to Seattle area versus the Canon 6D. The Canon 6D is nothing bad about it, but it is still kind of a bulky, bigger DSLR that really doesn't offer any advantages over the Sony other than it's compatible with all of Canon's lenses and better battery life. So you've got this image stabilization platform in the Sony. I would go for the Sony as long as you don't already have Canon lenses.
Yep.
And related, Thu wants to know what's the big difference between the 6D and the 5D Mark III. Is it worth it to get that 5D over the 6D? The big difference is autofocusing system. That's the biggest difference. Image quality wise, they're similar. But the 6D has 9 focus points. Only the center is really the higher accuracy. And the center point is actually very good.
So you could argue that it's somewhat of an updated 5D Mark II.
Yeah, that's true. The 6D is an updated 5D Mark II.
With sort of kind of watered down features almost.
Yes, that's true too.
So I would go for the Mark II. I used Mark II.
Instead of the 6D?
Well,
the 6D's got a nice sensor in it though.
Nicer than the Mark II?
Yes.
Really?
That is one difference, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
6D is one of the best Canon sensors currently on the market, full frame. It's the newest full frame Canon sensor.
Better than the new 5Ds?
Oh, not better. Well, not.
Better than the 5D Mark
Well,
III?
we got to get into discussion of what do we mean by better. Better dynamic range, yes, those new 5DSs and 5D4s have massive megapixels. Oh, but thank you for bringing that up because DP Review has done a side-by-side test of the dynamic range.
Here's what you should consider.
Can I finish this thought real quick?
Sure.
And just says, sorry, you are trying to answer this person's question and I'm not. The dynamic range of these new cameras is not exciting. It is just still stuck in the past. You'll get massive megapixels and the image quality is good, but it does not hold up against the current competitors.
So here's what I would do through. Think about how important autofocusing is to you, because to me, so does a 6D have dual card slots?
No.
Or doesn't? Okay.
Yep, that's a big difference.
Think about. So for me, the decision, if I were to if I had to choose between the 6D and the 5D Mark III right now, I would pick the 5D Mark III because I'm a wedding photographer. I need to shoot backup images to 2 cards. So the 5D Mark III allows me to put a CF card and an SD card into the camera at the same time and shoot identical copies to both cards, identical raw copies to both cards. And the focus points, I believe it has like 40 something, 41.
The 5D Mark III?
Yeah.
63.
63 focus points. Makes a huge difference when trying to focus in low light, when just tracking moving subjects, which happens a lot on the wedding day. So that's why I would go with the 5D Mark III. If that was just my camera, or if I
General
wasn't
travel,
a wedding
general photography. Sorry.
yeah, if I was not a wedding photographer and didn't need the autofocus points, I would go with the 60. Yeah. So.
Yep. I generally recommend for general photography the 60 over the 5D Mark III. With that savings, you can buy yourself a nice lens, a nice prime lens. You also get GPS and Wi-Fi in there too, which the 5D Mark III doesn't have. But if you're shooting professionally, build quality, the faster focusing of the 5D Mark III is a nice advantage. Yeah. So I don't want to seem like I poo-pooed the 6D at all there. I think it's a fantastic camera, and
Yeah.
as I said,
It's just there's enough of a price difference that you have to sort of think about, like, okay, well, do I really need all these things that are in the Mark III, or can I do away with the 60? I mean, they're both great cameras. It's just one has some more features.
yeah. Will Phillip wants to know if the MacBook Pro is worth it for an amateur photographer. They're on the fence about that, or an Asus. I'd say that you can see us both sitting here with MacBooks. I've been a little frustrated with Mac lately. I feel like this latest operating system and multi-monitor support and some other things it does is bothering me a little bit. I'm fairly platform agnostic. I used to have a day job. Used Windows, perfectly happy using the latest version of Windows. What I really like about the MacBooks is you get a good color screen straight out of the box. That is an advantage. But it often feels like you can get a little bit more for your money's worth on the PC side of things. So just check, see what people are saying about the reviews of that Asus and its screen. That would be the real question to me. Mark wants to know about Magic Lantern for the 70D. Any reason not to? Have you used it for video much? I actually, until recently, I don't know if you know this, there was a secret firmware revision that some 70Ds had that did not allow Magic Lantern to be installed. And so back when it was first announced, my camera fell into that category of would not work. Tried several times to get it installed and it wouldn't work. So it was only recently that I heard that they now have a working alpha, or is it beta, for all firmware revisions of the 70D. And I haven't gone back and tried. I'll tell you, I like when I'm shooting with my 5D Mark III or the Canon T5i, having Magic Lantern. Several features are nice. The intervalometer built in is nice. Timed bulb mode is nice. For video, the magic zoom or the permanent zoom, where you have a little window that's always zoomed in so you can check your focus even while you're recording. The focus peaking, those are really nice features. I did get the first comment I've ever seen from anybody in anything I had to do with the other day on their 5D Mark III, said they installed a nightly build and it did bake their camera. It could have been full of baloney, and they probably work for Canon and just want to scare people away from installing it. But it's always a chance you take, so you need to make that final decision. But I really do like the features, and I've installed it on multiple 5D Mark IIIs and the T5i multiple times, and I've never had a problem. If you plan to shoot video, it's got nice features. Gudmunder is going for image quality and shallow depth of field. Will you get better results with a Canon 6D and f4 or the Canon 70D and f2.8 lenses? I think it's going to work out to be just about the same. As far as depth of field goes, quality, the Canon 6D. It gives you greater detail. It's a full frame sensor. It's going to be better in lower light, so it's going to be able to capture more detail. I've got a video about crop versus full frame where I put the 70D and the 6D side by side and talk about those things, so go watch that. The 70D versus 760D or T6S question. Hang on there, Jacob. My review's coming out and I answer exactly that. There are strengths from both of them. Image quality-wise, they're almost identical. So really it's about the features you want or need.
Yeah.
Are the new Zeiss lenses for the Sony FE system worth the money? If absolute sharpness, we are getting to I think they...
So here's one thing that we haven't discussed.
Yes.
So, and I came across it, or I crossed the idea, and I hadn't really thought about it until I came across this post on one of the Facebook groups I belong to that talk about film photography and some medium format film cameras and lenses. So the idea that was, brought up by somebody else that I had never thought of is that some people shoot specifically or with certain gear specifically. So, for example, in the wedding photography world, some people really love the look of the medium format camera Contax, the Contax C645 with 80 millimeter f2 lens. And so the f2 makes a difference because when shot on medium format film, you get lots of light, you get lots of depth of field, and you get a beautiful image, a beautiful high resolution image. But also this particular lens has a very different quality to it. And actually, you brought it up earlier when you were talking about the new 50 and the number of
Pentagon
leaves.
bokeh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the bokeh is not only, it's very round. It's very, it's not very geometric,
Mm-hmm.
or not. It doesn't have lots of hard lines. It's very round, very smooth, very creamy, if you will. Some people call it that. And it also just it's just very pretty. All of the blur and the bokeh is distributed very nicely along the edges of the frame, and it just gives this very ethereal, beautiful look. So, when considering purchasing a lens, especially something like those new Zeiss lenses, I might take a look at the sample images and not just take into consideration sharpness or maximum aperture, but also the look. Is it going to give you a particular look to your pictures? So is it going to help you define a particular style? Are you going to use it in such a way that it's going to really help you come up with a very unique kind of style? So, I wouldn't say no. I would just say that because it is a very high-end item, it's a very expensive lens, or they're very expensive lenses, I might just really do my research on it and look at lots of samples before I make the decision and really evaluate how that is going to improve my photography. Because sharpness alone isn't going to do anything for you. There's got to be certain characteristics. So that's why people shoot with lens babies. That's why people shoot with those weird Petzval lenses. That's why people, choose key type of things. Not because they're interested in sharpness, but because they're interested in getting a particular type of look that is going to be unique and make their work stand out. So does that help?
Sure.
I hope it does.
Okay. I think that's a good overall discussion when people are trying to figure out whether or not a lens is worthwhile for them. Roger wants to know if there's any way we could facilitate means which people could share their Flickr and 500 Pix account names. Roger, I've got a couple ideas I'm working on where a little extra chat can happen. So that's a great suggestion, and yes, I hope we can have something soon. Buddy Bonus wants to know what our favorite feature of any camera is. The first one that pops into my head right now is Wi-Fi. I like cameras having Wi-Fi. It's so nice to be able to share a quick picture while I'm traveling. I think that's part of the fun of taking photos, is sharing them, and Wi-Fi makes it easy. You don't have to wait till you download all of these pictures and figuring out which one you share. You just took a picture, I'm going to share that picture. So I really like Wi-Fi. Also, if it gives me remote control capabilities, are useful as well for setting up for selfies and things like that. And then the cheap answer that ties back to something I said earlier is I like the feature that some Canon cameras can run Magic Lantern software because it adds this whole host of other features. So, do you have a favorite feature? You can think about it for a minute while I ask Pocketful or answer Pocketfuls. Will you be doing a Photoshop CC series of educational videos? No. We use Photoshop. for pretty limited things.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we're both competent in it. You're very competent. But it's not something I enjoy. And so I don't enjoy.
I'm not saying no forever, maybe in the future,
Right.
but
No,
not
no.
anytime soon.
That would be the best answer. No immediate plans.
No.
All right.
My favorite feature of any camera, I think.
Do you want me to keep talking about something else while you keep thinking?
Well, I don't know. I would say the autofocus, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Just because.
Competent autofocus.
Yeah. I mean, that was the reason that I upgraded so quickly to the 5D Mark III when it came out, because I was just really needed competent autofocus.
Right.
Competent
5D
is the right word
right.
for it.
5D Mark II is challenging when you get away from that center focus point.
It's very
or a low light.
focusing.
I also thought Thu, who was asking about the 6D versus 5D, I saw in chat you were asking a little bit about video too. My answer changes a bit if you're really serious about shooting video. The 6D is not the best. It tends to moire off, or that you got that repeating pattern, and it's just not great quality. Even though the sensor for stills is excellent, it'll do the trick. But if your primary focus is video, then the 5D Mark III does offer some nice advantages and better video options there. Or you might want to consider something else entirely. So Close says, I'm a Nikon D5300 guy. Any starting lenses for wildlife photography? Starting lenses, if you're really on a budget, the Nikon 55-300 will get you started. It's not a fantastic lens. I don't get excited about it, but it'll get you started. If you want to be serious about wildlife, and I never quite know what people say. Serious wildlife photography means go sitting out in a blind somewhere for hours on end. The Tamron 150-600, which I actually saw Jeff suggest to him as well. That is, for the money, a fantastic lens. 600 millimeters on a crop sensor like the Nikon. That is some serious reach, and you can get some amazing photos if you go to the right places. So that, and then there's some in between too. Nikon's got their 80-400, which is very good, but that's very pricey as well. David H. wants to know about tips on calibrating screens.
Yeah.
Roy has done a fantastic post about this. Search our site for that.
And, well, I would just like to add that, so calibrating your monitor, you don't just calibrate your monitor to calibrate your monitor for the most part. So he asked about the Spider Pro data color. I have used that, and it is kind of, one of the most popular systems for monitor calibration. And I would recommend it. But you don't calibrate your monitor, out of the blue. You calibrate your monitor to match prints. That is, to me, that's the goal of calibrating your monitor. To be able to match your printed images or your monitor and your edits to the final product, so you don't waste paper, so that the image looks the way that you want it to, the way that you edited it on your computer. So in order to calibrate a monitor, you're going to have to print an image if you have a printer, and calibrate to that. Another thing you can do is simply, if you have a printer that you like, so for example Adorama Pix or some other printer that you like, you can usually on their website, or if you contact their customer service, they can send you print profiles that you can use to calibrate your monitor and create a printing profile for their particular papers. So that way you can proof it before you send it to print, before you export it. And what proofing does, it creates a sample of what the image will look like when it's printed on a particular paper by a certain printer. So, if you don't have a monitor calibrating system right now, that would be a good place to start. Mac monitors are awesome out of the box.
Usually, yep.
For the most part.
Yep.
They're awesome out of the box. That's one reason that I really love Mac computers. But you can also buy other monitors and get, color calibrating system. You can also rent them. I think Lens Rentals.
That's right, Lens Rentals
and
as well.
other rental companies allow you to rent those, so you don't have to buy it. So those are some tips.
Somebody had a question for you. How did you get used to the weight of the 70-200 f2.8?
That's KDO888. I didn't. I never have. I usually at the end of a wedding day, I'm just like, oh God, I don't want to use this lens anymore. It's really tiring, especially when I'm like kind of far behind and I'm like waiting for something to happen. I'm like, okay, make it happen already so I can click the button and put my camera down.
Kiss. Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
heavy.
It's
I
heavy.
almost wanted to answer the question, but I don't want to seem like too much of a sissy. There are some times where I'm holding it for a while, and I'm just like this. I can do it though. It's fine. Those two things together are quite heavy. I think, did we answer all of the questions?
Yes, we did.
You know, a couple things we wanted to do is, well, one, I wanted to thank Adam. Adam is part of the McKay Photography Academy, and as you know, they returned from Tanzania very recently, and he's just a really cool guy and got me this awesome print from Tanzania. I just have it on top of the cardboard. That's why it's got such an ugly back right there now. And to remind people that they have room on their Tanzania trip for you. This is bucket list, trip of a lifetime kind of stuff. I'll put a link to their page about this right down below, but the photos that they captured on this trip, we talked about this last week, but they hit all of your major African animals: giraffes, elephants, zebras, wildebeests, lions, cheetahs, hippos, monkeys, baboons, alligators, and they are going back next year, and they have room available. Think about this. I'm looking back.
Don't even think about it. Just do it.
Just do it. I look back at the top pictures I've made over the last year, and 85% of them were either on the trip with these guys in Italy or on the trip in Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is just, it is just an amazing experience. And then you add on top of it going along with awesome people like Adam, who he probably won't buy you a print, but he makes these cool patches, and he's right by your side answering your questions. So not only are you getting to experience and take these pictures, but you say, oh, why does it look this way? And Adam, or me, if I'm on the trip with you, or Christina's on the trip with you, we're right there. And we say, you know what? If you open up your aperture a little bit more, you can drop your ISO, and you're going to get a cleaner picture. Or, if you move a little bit, you won't have that lion intersecting with that tree trunk anymore, and you're going to get a better picture for it. And there's this immediate cycle of picture, feedback, if you want it, and growth as a photographer. If Tanzania isn't your thing, you can join us in New Zealand. And just got a nice message from Joe a few days ago, who is going to New Zealand as one of our fans, found out about the McKay Academy through us. We're psyched. These trips are just awesome, and it's so much fun to do them with you fun people who have followed along and contact us, and it's always nice to put names, faces to names.
That's one of my favorite. That's been one of my favorite parts, is getting to meet people who, we don't get to meet otherwise.
That's right.
But that share our interest in photography.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a link to all of that right down below as well. Check them out. They have a nice 4-minute video of their Tanzania trip. It gives you an amazing overview of what they saw, and you're going to want to go. Beautiful trips, wonderful people, tons of learning.
Yep.
So, did we blab for enough?
We did. There's actually 2 more questions if we still have some time.
Okay, let's answer them.
Or just one more question, actually.
I mean, I dropped my Cinnabon on the floor, so what else is there to do?
Right.
Except to answer questions.
Aubrey, JK97, wants to know if we know of any professional wedding photographers who shoot with mirrorless cameras. And so I have a friend who is out of Charlotte, North Carolina, who I believe has shot at least partly with a Fuji.
Rachel?
Not Rachel. Oh. No, Nathan. My friend Nathan Aplanop. I believe he has shot with a Fuji. And I don't know if he shot a full wedding. I should ask him, because I'm actually curious about that.
What's really funny is we know another Nathan who has shot weddings with Fuji.
Yeah.
Nathan Smith, who I interviewed for that. He has shot some very high-end weddings. Again, not solely with a mirrorless, but he's brought it along. And I should, again, in with him because he was feeling very confident after his last couple of weddings where he used it, and it's getting close to saying I could use this exclusively.
The other thing that I maybe that made me think of though was I do know of lots and lots and I mean probably hundreds of photographers who shoot on film, like only on film, shoot weddings only on film.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is just a million times riskier than shooting on like a mirrorless camera. And probably less flexible than shooting with a mirrorless camera in many ways. I mean, it's sort of comparing apples and oranges a little bit, but I think that if you wanted to do that, you should just go for it. I mean, so I would find somebody to check and shoot for and then just, try it out for one wedding where I'm not the lead photographer and see how it goes.
Well, I've brought some of the mirrorless to some of the weddings that we've shot, and, at the moments that weren't special, tested these cameras. What I'll say is it is about expectations with whoever you're working for. If you got a gallery of DSLR photos and you show up with a mirrorless and are likely going to make slightly different looking photos, especially at the beginning until you get accustomed, that might be an issue. But these cameras are capable, absolutely, of shooting weddings. I think I'd lean, if I had to pick a mirrorless to shoot a wedding with, the Fuji XT1. You have some wonderful, fantastic that camera with this latest firmware update, good autofocusing. I expect these autofocus improvements are good, and you do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last question.
That was the last question.
Thank you guys for sticking around all the way to the end. Thank you for watching. If you liked this show, give us a thumbs up. It helps spread the good word that we're putting on a good show. Hey, no bugs this show.
Not that we know of.
Not that we know of.
Hey,
That's an improvement.
Yes, it is an improvement.
And nobody complained about audio. In fact, I think one person asked what we were using to record audio, which is just amazing given all the issues we've
Well, I'll tell you what. Part of the answer has been we've been testing and poking and prodding, and you wonderful Patreon supporters who have pledged an amount each month have literally made improvements to this show possible. None of that like, oh, well, it could use. No. Knowing that money is coming in each month, I can say, all right, for this, we can budget this Tascam DR60 Mark II and put this into the workflow and use it. We're getting really close to that $1,000 milestone. So if you're not a Patreon supporter, think about taking a moment and looking at how you can support the show. And, it's not like you just get to give us money and then get a little bit better audio. You get stuff for your pledge. And you get really good value, I believe. I think it's good value. I take a moment.
Of course you do.
Well, there's a couple things here that we're moving into the chit-chat phase now. Yeah. We went to that hotel in Seattle a few months ago.
Yep.
And they nickel and dimed the crumb out of you. It was a pretty good deal. It was a nice hotel in downtown Seattle.
Except you had to pay like $40 for parking.
Right. Part of that was our
inexperience.
Our inexperience with thinking about city. Oh, right, this is in the city. Of course, they're going to make you pay for parking. Pay for parking. Pay for Wi-Fi.
They tax like everything.
Well,
almost like they almost tax the water.
Right. That's the West Coast. And very quickly it just added up and added up and added up. And there was one other example recently where I had to do business with somebody. Oh, I think it was Bank of America. And the fees added up and added up and added up. And I just thought, man, I just never want to be on the other side. The nickeling, diming, and not giving somebody value is just so frustrating. And so we worked really hard. We've said, what do we want to do? What do we want to give people? And I think we've come up with really good things. As I said, of course I think so. But just very conscious.
Tanner says, whoa, whoa, whoa. West Coast isn't all like that. So watch yourself.
Well,
I added that last part.
I bought those binoculars in San
yourself.
Francisco. There was 10% tax on them. So,
well, that's San Francisco. Come on.
It's West Coast.
Yeah, but.
And we just talked about Seattle. It's West Coast.
Yeah, but. How about Oregon?
I don't know. I don't remember. I've bought stuff in Portland, but it's been a while.
Melinda says, try Disney World. They dollar you to the death.
Oh,
I
yeah,
believe that. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I got lots of other examples,
you were
but
gonna tie that.
I did.
Back
You were
to
reading the chat,
us.
so you missed it. So just that I'm extremely conscious of making sure people get value for their money. Extremely. Maybe to the detriment of my business to some degree, but I don't want to be one of those people that, nickel and dimes you. I just don't. I want to make sure that you get, or you feel like you get your money's worth. And I think most Patreon supporters feel that way. And I thank them for the support in making things like increased audio quality of this show happen.
Yep.
It's good. On that note, let's go eat floor-dropped Cinnabuns. We don't have any of those.
And if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can follow our usernames down below.
Linda's asking for the coupon code for Adorama. The coupon code for the book. For the book is all over. The
new coupon
the new code I'm going to put right down below this video in.
And we will have a slide next week. But don't wait till next week.
Right.
Just do it now.
Right.
Because you don't know if it's going to expire.
Oh gosh, I've gotten so many emails since. Oh no, Libby's. I didn't get that many emails. It was.
It's like PXPR.
Oh my gosh, why isn't it just right here?
Sorry.
PXRBT20. 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 Great. Did you put it in there?
Yep.
That'll save you 20% off any print smaller than 16 by 20. All right. And on that note, thank you.
And goodbye.